Welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production, hosted by me, John A. Costa. Today is August 21st, 2025. This is episode 120. We didn't do an episode yesterday. Just wasn't feeling up to it. Them's all the facts, folks. That's the way it rolls here. As I said, this is News with a View, Fat Cat production. This is a conservative-leaning podcast, but I do take the facts into account. I just don't report on, go Trump go, and I just don't tear apart the Democrats. Though I do, in this episode, tear apart the Democrats. And rightfully so on a couple of points. At least to me. Feel free to leave commentary. I'm okay with it. I'm not thin-skinned like some people are. Bob in New York. No, he's not thin-skinned. If anything, he's got callus. All right. In today's news, and when I do the edited version of this, I'll put topics right up over here. But I don't do that on this. I'm not inserting fonts in on the fly. All right, appeals court throws out massive civil fraud penalty against President Donald Trump. The New York State appeals court struck down the judgment of almost, it was more than $500 million in fines. And this we knew would happen. The judge that was presiding in that case, terrible judge, because any ridiculous fine was going to be challenged as under the Eighth Amendment as being, ridiculous. So that it violated the Eighth Amendment. The fine didn't fit the punishment of the crime. Now, this really only found for Trump in the monetary fine. Did not find for Trump that the case itself was handled incorrectly. I think that still is going on. But you can file on this and then go further back and do whatever Trump is going to do with it. Judges Diane Renwick and Peter Moulton wrote in a one-line on one of three opinions shaping the appeals that it was unconstitutional and as such struck it down. So that is a huge win for President Trump. And President Trump went on social media and claimed total victory. Well, I'm not going to say total victory. And I greatly respect the fact that the courts had the courage to throw at this unlawful and disgraceful decision that was hurting businesses all throughout New York State. Well, part of that is true. But I didn't think it released him from being in, having the verdict tossed. Just the penalty portion of the case was tossed. So easy on the victory lap, Donald. You ain't done yet. just so you know. And I said, I will call them as I see them. Another big thing today going on, um, uh, Bondi AG has sent letters out to states telling them they gotta get on board with helping ICE. And it was an interesting turn because we knew which way they were going to take on it. And this was really thrown. The Democrats are letting Newsom run with this, which says that, you know, he's a political contender. Personally, I do not see him getting the nod to run. I think by the time he gets up to running, there'll be major issues with him. But Bondi had sent the letter out on behalf. Bondi said to the Department of Justice, determined California engages in sanctuary policies that prevent federal immigration enforcement from accomplishing the interests of the United States. Bundy's comments were mentioned in the California in the letter, and said California must follow that. They must allow ICE and give access to ICE and work with ICE. Newsom told Bondi in a letter that California rules of professional conduct generally prohibit lawyers from bringing a claim or asserting positions in litigations without probable cause, and for the purposes of harassing or injuring a person. That means the courts decide to punish. That means if the courts, meaning the federal courts, decide to punish a state or local official for conduct it has already decided to be lawful, and conduct Bondi's letter had threatened that, you know, if you don't follow the law, you're going to be in trouble. That California licensed attorneys run the risk of violating their ethical obligations. Now, lawyers are officers of the court and take a oath to not only an ethical oath, but a legal oath of their position, where they attest to being officers of the courts, and as such will follow the United States Constitution and state laws that are associated with the United States Constitution or in line. Now, where Newsom is saying that this would abridge the state's rights of saying what is the law of their land. And there has been court cases where the Supreme Court ruled that the states do not have to follow federal law in certain cases. This really comes into a major conflict with the Constitution. This was a decision made by the 9th District that then went up to the courts. And so Bondi also said the Department of Justice determined California engages in sanctuary policies that prevent federal immigration enforcement from accomplishing the interests of the United States. Newsom said it would be improper under California laws because United States versus California, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 9th District decided states have the right under the 10th Amendment and its anti-commandering rule to refrain from assisting with enforcement of federal laws. Now, the Supremacy Clause, Article 6 of the 10th Amendment, states that federal law is the law of the land and can't be abridged by the state, meaning that the states can't say, we're not going to follow the laws of the United States. And this is where the conflict now is going to be. And they said, well, the 9th District has, time and time again have won that argument. And not only there, Illinois had won it in separate incidences, not pertaining to immigration, but of other matters. And New York State, I think in 1997, had something that went on with that. So what they're saying is that they will not relinquish their sovereignty, which is an interesting term, because that's going to come up in the 14th Amendment. So the governor said California law does not get in the way of criminal investigations or sharing information about an individual's criminal history. Newsom said California law does not get involved with the federal government's authority to enforce immigration policies using federal resources, adding that California law prioritizes public safety and works with ICE to deport convicts who threaten public safety. Since 2019, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation had coordinated with ICE on more than 11,300 cases, some of which involved individuals convicted of murder, rape, child molestation, and other felonies. Newsom went on to say, however, he does not support the Trump administration's use of federal agents and military in local areas, claiming it is illegal. Sorry, it is not. Therefore, he believes under California law, state and local officials have the right to push back against Trump's effort. Now, that's an interesting little statement he made in there, because in my opinion, what Newsom is saying, he wants to be forced into capitulating. He wants the Supreme Court to come in and rule on this. And again, I think it's a huge mistake the Democrats are doing, pushing an agenda that they could very well lose. And coming into 2026 and 2028, it ain't going to be good for them. This is further driven by, and this was reported from Politico. This is all Politico stuff. And again, I'm not a big fan of Politico, but I do use them because they are factual. So I think once the federal government gets in and they want that definition of what, and what can they do to not follow federal guidelines, because they can turn around. I mean, if states are told they don't have to follow federal law, then they don't have to follow the Constitution of the United States. So there's a conundrum. And the Supreme Court will say, well, we're going to fix that conundrum because now you forced us to make a decision. And the first decision is federal law supersedes state law when there is a conflict. There. Problem solved. It will be very hard. And when they lose that, then they lose all their other arguments that happened behind that. And they got to start from zero again and come back up and fight the fight. Because you can't be a little pregnant. You either are or you aren't. And this is what it's going to come down to. And the Supreme Court is going to side with our immigration laws and our procedures in handling it, even though, always surprisingly, and people don't know, a lot of people don't know this, that immigration violation is a civil matter. Yeah. So when they're saying, when Newsom is saying he feels it's illegal for the federal government to come in and expect the state to handle a civil matter, he's not off base with that thinking and that logic. So, again, I will say that where there's room, where there's meat on that bone that people can bite, I would say that if Newsom and the Democrats go down that road, that could be. And the fact of the matter is that by Newsom admitting that they do work with ICE on criminals, but they're saying felons. Let's not put felons there. Let's just put criminals, misdemeanors, being illegal. And see, that's where that's where, because it was a civil matter. And under civil matters, the government's not required to provide you with a lawyer. They have to tell you you can go get a lawyer, hire them yourself. But they do not have to provide one. They have to just tell the person what you're being held for and what the procedures are. And that's it. Other than, of course, treating them humanely and you just can't put them in a hole in the ground. But when Newsom says that, hey, we've considered what you're doing illegal because it's a civil matter and not a criminal matter. Tomato, tomato. And I will say, and again I say, that these are really standard legal comments made by both sides. So Attorney General Bondi made fresh threats to cities and states demanding they drop their sanctuaries policy is being met with a collective nope. Bondi stated to governors in Illinois, Minnesota, to the mayors of New York City, Denver, Boston, limiting their cooperation between local law enforcement and federal immigration officers in more than 30 jurisdictions. She went after and said, no, you guys got to work with us. This ends now, Bondi wrote. Well, and Democrats replied to her deadline on Tuesdays. Unfortunately, it doesn't end now. And uniformly rejecting the Trump administration assertion that they're interfering with federal immigration enforcement. That the federal government would insist that Minnesota should divert state resources to do the federal government's job or help effectuate some kind of misguided political agenda is fundamentally misguided as a political agenda. I'm surprised I missed that one. Minnesota, Tim Walz said to the press and to the letter sent to Attorney General Bondi. I say with that, thank God that Harris picked Walz. Because none of those other guys that were up for consideration, they didn't want to be with Harris. Harris had to pick someone less bright than she is. So she picks Walz. And I want to know how, following immigration laws and regulation, inconsistent with the founding of our nation. Because I keep saying that if anyone should be screaming about having a policy on immigration and sticking to it, should have been the American Indians. That's what happens when you don't have a sound immigration policy. Bob in New York, dispute that. Your turn. So, of course, Mayor Wu in Boston, and Eric Adams sent a conciliatory 2-paragraph letter via the city's corporation council or something, But together they said that, we don't have to help you. We are not required to help you. And again, that side of the coin, I don't know if that's a true statement. Because you look at any of their oaths of offices that they took to uphold the laws and Constitution of the United States and the great state of blah, 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 or city of blah, 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 or, yeah, it's in your oath. And handing people that are civil or not, they're here illegally. I don't get the logic there. And I could understand the state saying, hey, we'll help you, but we got to be compensated for it. If I take 20 police or 30 police out of my out of my roll call to go out and do policing job to help ICE round up people, I need 20 more people. And now I have all that expense and everything else. I can understand the states and municipalities and the cities saying such a thing. I don't believe that states or cities or municipalities should have laws and policies that go contrary to the Constitution. I think that's a bad, bad, bad thing. I think that was bad law back then when they tried that, and they won it in the 9th District, which is arguably one of the most liberal districts in the system. So, and Bondi's swift retribution for local governments failing to comply with demands of her letter. We're going to work with our other agencies to cut off their federal funding. Now, again, watch out for that pesky 10th Amendment, okay? Be careful with that. We're going to send in law enforcement, just like we did during the LA riots, just like we're doing here in Washington, D.C., she told Fox Business this week. And if they're not going to keep their citizens safe, Donald Trump will keep them safe. Now, that's an argument that I said that Trump could win. If the government, local, is not doing their job, it is the job then of Big Daddy to take care of business. and take care of business he shall do. If you listen to this show before, if you listen to this podcast, I have told the Democrats over and over again, if you want to stay relevant, you must work with the president. The fact that you're going to fight him, he will fight you. He is a counterpuncher and he wins. And what's going to happen here, you're going to force this to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is going to say, we know what the 9th District said. They were wrong. We know what New York State appeals said over there. They were wrong. And the only thing the Democrats will be able to fall back on is saying, it wasn't us. We didn't make this happen. When in reality, they were to blame. Obama and Biden and administrations going all the way back are to blame for the immigration fiasco that we are facing. But Biden and Obama, really, 12 million in Biden. I mean, how many in Obama? We can't even figure it out. So this isn't what came first, the chicken or the egg. This is definitely the chicken laid the egg, and this is what hatched. So this isn't anything where, oh, where, how did it happen? We know how it happened. So I think that if you're harboring people, if you're giving them, you're aiding in Trump again, got to look at his words that he uses. An invasion. You're giving comfort to the enemy. Now, I know that's a large stretch to go. But you think about what he's doing, and it's tough to say that 12 million people that were allowed to run across the border unchecked isn't an invasion. And that now Trump, that's down to almost zero. How'd that happen? How did enforcing our border not happen before? Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, Green, Waters. How'd that happen before? The Democrats are going to lose this in the Supreme Court. Their only thing, well, it's not us. We wanted to protect all you people. You brought them in under false pretense, just like you did college kids. We're going to wipe your loans out. You're going to not, you don't have to pay that loan. And you lied. You knew that it couldn't happen. You were so confident that you were going to win in 2024. And you were just going to push this through. And now, who's doing the pushing? Idiots. And now you're sitting on the side screaming and crying, fleeing different states, not doing your job. See what the problem is, folks? Democrats have no plan. Only no. We're not going to follow our immigration policy. No. No, which is a federal immigration policy. No, we're not going to do it. So, in all this, a delivery driver in Los Angeles pulls up to deliver strawberries right where all this speeches are going on, and screw you government, screw you Trump, and they arrest this guy, Manguila, who has been in the country for close to a decade, which then brings that back to 2025. Thank you, President Obama. He was arrested by Border Patrol agents and now faces deportation back to Mexico. Speaking from behind a plexiglass window at the B-18 Federal Detention Center in downtown LA on Monday, Miguel stressed that he is not a criminal. One comes here to work, not commit crimes. Who hired him? Did he give false identity? Did he give false taxpayer ID number? Did he do anything illegal? Did the person who hired him to deliver strawberries, are they taking out taxes? Is this guy on the payroll? How did it pass the smell test for hiring people? So, and he said, Miguel, who wore the same red t-shirt and jeans he was arrested in 4 days prior to that. Consequences. And when asked last week whether the person arrested outside the news conference had a criminal record, Homeland Security spokesman said the agency would share a criminal rap sheet when it was available. After 4 follow-up emails from a reporter, McLaughlin on Saturday said agents had arrested 2 illegal aliens in the vicinity of Newsom's news conference, including an alleged gang member and narcotics trafficker. Asked twice to clarify whether an alleged gang member were the same person, Homeland Security did not respond. But when presented with Manguila's biographical information Monday, the department said he had been arrested because he overstayed his visa. A civil, not criminal offense. See, remember I said. But you still can be held. You could be arrested for a civil matter. And that civil matter, you don't have to be given a lawyer. So, it doesn't matter whether or not the individual had a criminal record or not. It honestly, it doesn't. If he has a criminal record, then he can be almost deported, expedited. Adios. As long as he's not charged in the criminal sense. Now, if he's charged in the criminal sense, that opens up a whole different avenue. Then you are entitled to a lawyer. But that lawyer, unless they want to, can't represent you in immigration court, unless they do it. But in the meantime, they can be held under our criminal code, and under our criminal code, even an illegal would get a public defender or a lawyer or whatever, and then he has due process rights if charged as a criminal. Now, what happens when, in a case like this guy, a gang member, and they go to him, listen, You have 5 minutes to make a choice here. Either you tell us you voluntarily will leave the United States and we'll put you on a plane and send you back to whatever hole you crawled out of. Or we come in here and arrest you and we throw the book at you. And you'll be in and out of courts while sitting in jail for the next 5 years, pleading your case. Or you can get out tomorrow, put you on a plane and get you out. I'll come back in 4.5 minutes from now. You tell me what you want to do. Now, if you want to call a lawyer, there's your payphone over there. You can use it. Lawyers' names are all up over here. Here's a sheet. It's in Spanish, it's in English, it's whatever these people's languages are. You got 4.5. Now you got 4 minutes. I'll be back in 4 minutes. And that's the way they do it. Is it coercive? Sure it is. Is it strong-arm tactics? Sure it is. But they can do it. There's nothing wrong with it. Not a thing illegal about it. I wouldn't say there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing illegal about using that tactic. So, I think that the Democrats are on the wrong end here, totally on the wrong end. I could see where they could make an argument about the 10th Amendment. I could see where they can make that argument, but I don't think they're going to make it on this one, and I don't see a good outcome for them using that type of strategy. You brought these people in, and now they're left out hung to dry, and you're hoping to get to the next election if, God, you should win it, which I doubt it, and you're not, so these people are going to be out another 2 years. And, now, and a lot of them will have their cases heard and out. Now, Bob in New York, you had spoken to me yesterday, and I love having spirited talks. Bob gets all upset and then he doesn't hang up. He goes, that's it, I'm not talking to you. You're getting, and I go, you're the one yelling, Bob, but that's okay. He said that Trump did not follow the Constitution on a 9-0 vote, ruling by, not a vote, I don't call it a vote, but 9-0 ruling by the by the Supreme Court in the case of, Garcia that was, sent to where, Venezuela, Brazil, whatever. I think Venezuela. No, not Venezuela, but somewhere. And they said he was deported illegally or without having his due process rights. And Court of Appeals, said, no, he has to have his due process rights. And Trump said, well, too late. He left 3 hours ago on an airplane. And, they turned around and said, well, how could you do that? We told you you couldn't do that. And he goes, well, you told us 2.5 hours ago. He was already, you told us a half hour ago. He was already 2.5 hours out over international waters. And he's gone. And it went up to the Supreme Court, expedited, and the Supreme Court agreed with the lower court to say, hey, you got to get this guy back. And you have to facilitate the process. And 3 weeks later, or a month later, he was back. So he did not comply to the Supreme Court, Bob. Did he skirt the courts? Yes, he skirted the courts. Could he have ordered the plane back? Yes, he could have ordered the plane back. Could he send the Marines into another country to break that guy out of jail and get him back? Yeah, he could have done that. But he did not defy the Supreme Court, Bob. So once again, I have proved you wrong. And with that, I'm going to say it's been 40 minutes. This was going to be a quick one. I'm busy tonight. There's a lot of things I got to do today. And it's already 3:51 in the afternoon. I won't get the edited show out until about 9:30 tonight because I got things to do. And I would have gotten this out sooner today, but we had, well, it wasn't real mechanical problems with our toilet, but when I fixed one toilet, and it's running all the time, I started to run, and then wifey had said this about 3 months ago, that the other toilet's hard to flush, boom, boom, boom. So I had to take that apart, because if I fixed one, I got 5 bathrooms in this house. God forbid anyone uses any one but their favorite throne. So I had to take that apart. And you know how a 15-minute project turns into 3 hours, right? With, a toilet bowl that has, this much room between either side, and you take a look at me and I'm got that much room. So I'm wedging myself in there, and literally my poor wife is like pulling me out by my feet. Looks like a Laurel and Hardy. Any of you remember Laurel and Hardy? Or Three Stooges, episode. So I got that done. And one toilet was leaking because the 3 screws I had to put in, I didn't do it right. I knew that. I told her, I said, this one's going to give us a problem because it's not sitting right. I hate doing those things. Well, and I got a car to work on today. So with that, I'm going to say good night. Give it to a charity. Make sure you give to a charity that is a real charity. Don't become a victim helping a victim. If you're not, if that doesn't fit what you'd like to do, give it to a food bank. Food banks are always looking for food, canned food, clothing, sneakers, shoes, coats, paper, the toilet paper, paper plates, feminine products, soap, shampoo, things that, people, they need food, but they also need a lot of other things that go with it. Towels, anything that you can give that you're not using anymore, or you go, I just bought a whole new set of towels. These towels are all right, but give it to them. They'll find a use for it. They might say, well, we don't take the towels, but we do give it, when people do give that, we give that to a dog or an animal rescue facility where they wash the dogs and clean them and stuff, and cats and birds or whatever. And they always need towels. So if you're not using it and you have no real use for that, give that clothes away. Empty your closet out of this crap. Yeah, I know you paid $300 for that suit. It's like me. When I weighed 190 pounds, they couldn't even stuff me in that suit if I was dead. They'd have to cut the whole back out and just lay it on me. So, do that. The other thing, say a prayer. Prayer does work. And with that, I'm going to end this. If there's anything late and breaking, I will, of course, go live and then edit that and put that out as a, show B, which has happened in the past, but I don't see that happening today. Okay, with that, I'm going to say goodbye, so long, as I fade to black.